Welcome back everyone, once again to another SnowRunner video. Today we're going to continue our truck request series, and this is the comment for the GMC MH9500, and these are all the upvotes. So thank you guys so much for the participation. It's been great. Please keep commenting, please keep upvoting. I see all your comments, guys. I see them. Just keep upvoting. Something will happen. This has been a great series. It's kind of a change of pace. Usually I'm dedicating, a ton of hours to editing, making footage, all that other stuff that goes into, I guess you would say, content creation. Just making videos. So it kind of gives me a break and I can just kind of hit the record button, word vomit, and kind of just, Hopefully you guys like this series. It's kind of more of a laid back thing for me. A little bit easier to produce. If you'd like to see more information on these trucks, please go see the actual reviews of them. They're on the channel. My views haven't changed on them, to be quite honest. I go through and I look at those every time before I actually do a truck request. And I think to myself, what has changed? Is my perspective changed? And honestly, there's not really much that has changed. I'm kind of going to hold back a little bit of comparing this to other vehicles because that's content for my tier list, which I'll talk about that after the season 16 pass is complete, or the season 16 pass. Yeah. After the year 4 pass is done with, which is season 16. So we'll look into that. Also, just want to say these are not reviews. This is just a cool, fun little garage tour that I talk about my experience with this vehicle and how I feel it will be in 2026 and maybe how it's doing, I guess, compared to the super trucks that have come out. But we won't talk too much about that because I need to save that for the tier list. So anyways, let's get started here. So first thing I want to mention here with the GMC is I think something that players can get confused with, especially if you're new, is choosing an engine. Usually, logically speaking, the last engine in the set is going to be the one that has the most torque, right? There's a couple examples of this through the game where that's not the case. This is one of them. The Westline V6 2420 is 5,000 torque less than the 2100 Tango, but it's better with durability. It's also less efficient. So this engine right here is 5,000 more torque at 145. This is 140, and this has better consumption. But this engine here is not as durable, so it's more prone to being damaged. So those are things to consider. I would say go with power and efficiency, which getting both those things when you upgrade an engine usually don't come together. That's kind of a rarity, right? I mentioned that on my video pertaining to power and efficiency, like what engine to choose, power or efficiency. This is an example where you're getting power and efficiency. You're just trading away durability, essentially. But if you just want a durable engine and you're slamming into stuff all the time, this might be your pick. So, but in my case, I want the most amount of efficiency, torque, because I don't have a huge fuel capacity here at 64 gallons, 240 liters. So I want as much uptime as I can. And that's kind of where my gameplay kind of centers around is I want to be as efficient as possible. That's just my mindset. Even in regardless if it's hard mode, normal mode, I want the most amount of uptime, and that's just kind of how I roll. Moving on to gearboxes, please don't use the fine tune. I'm just gonna say this, guys. I kind of sugarcoat this a little bit talking about the fine tune because I think it hurts people's feelings when I say this, but the fine tune is griefing yourself. 60% all-wheel drive penalty. The sliders are very slow. I don't believe you're getting much speed increase over an off-road gearbox when you're at the highest heights of low plus. I don't even have a mapping for the torque throughput in those on the sliders, so I can't even give good information about those. Also, oh goodness, a 60% all-wheel drive penalty above a 40 or above a 30. Logically speaking, I'm not gonna take it. I'm sorry. So this is for all-wheel drive. So but another thing is even if you didn't have all-wheel drive, the base consumption for the fine-tuned gearbox is higher than all these. okay? The base consumption. That's even for trucks that don't have all-wheel drive. So you're gonna, even if you choose this in a non-all-wheel drive truck, your base consumption is going to be higher. So that's why I would choose just, yeah, off-road or high range. You want to blaze. Just be aware, speed increases, damage increases as well. So I like manipulating low gears. That's just me. Another thing that trips people up about this vehicle is, and I think this is kind of a cool thing about it, is because you don't necessarily need a raised suspension to have the biggest tires. You can see stock suspension. I still have 47-inch JAT tires on here. Kind of cool because the vehicle is not the most stable, and this is kind of a trend with the North American trucks in the base game. As the game moves forward in DLCs, the North American trucks kind of make a comeback in terms of stability. But a lot of these early trucks, because I think they're beginners and they want to teach us the game, you can get yourself turned over if you're not careful. I like that. I like that it teaches you the game. I love that a lot. That's why I always tell people don't skip ahead. Play the game chronologically, like my friend Zing. This is his channel right here. I'm going to flash this up here. He is playing the game in 2025 right now. Hard mode, chronological order, and only getting DLCs when they came out in chronological order according to what maps came out in that order as well. I think it's a great way to play. Kind of gives you that 2020 feel. But pertaining to the race suspension here, the mapping on its hitbox is actually not very favorable in the front. It's actually decent in the back. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's decent in the back. So for this, pending, I'm pretty sure when you put a race suspension on, because I think it's mapped literally down to here actually. If you put a race suspension on, you see how much that jumped up? Even if this hitbox doesn't move up when you put this on, but I believe it does. I talked with Naked Dave about this, but I believe it still does. That is a lot of clearance to gain. Like, it's like you're hitting a switch and there's like hydraulics. Look at this. This is crazy. It even came off the ground. Anyways, even if this doesn't move and this is be static, you still would be gaining clearance in the front here. You would be gaining clearance on your tanks as well, which are mapped, so you're not catching those going through or accumulating resistance. So I think it's a win. The only way I would keep the stock suspension on is if I was worried about stability, which is a concern for a lot of people too. But I would say challenge yourself to keep this on its wheels. Play smarter. The smartest thing I can tell you about just keeping trucks on their wheels is always get your cab either facing uphill or downhill as fast as possible. Slow yourself down, look at what you're going to hit, and try to angle yourself to get your nose either uphill or downhill. So try not to be sideways on any type of slope, especially if you know that the truck is going to tip over. Or preemptively just stop, put your brake on, attach your winch from your side over to a tree, and then progress through it. And then kind of like use your winch to keep it taut, and then just progress around a bend. So things like that. I talk about that a lot on stream and even a lot on videos as well. If you guys want to check out more of that stuff, there's videos for that. But in this case, race suspension. Here, because I know the truck is not that stable, it does have two weights in its cab, and I believe they're set around like hood level. I just looked at them just a little bit ago. I'm not going to put those on screen. It's not this type of review. Usually on reviews, I put that stuff in nowadays just because I've gotten a little bit better at looking at those, and I've had some people guide me through that. But it does have, weight in its frame that's set like here, which is good. But then, it has those cab weights. So yeah, when you have cab weights that are, a higher CG sitting, if you mark these out, yeah, the average is going to show you that it's probably going to not hold very well. So in this case, to keep a better stability, I'm probably just going to use a JAT. To be honest, like there's the meta tire that could get you a couple hundredths or a couple tenths of a second faster in a straight line trial, which you guys have probably seen on my JAT tire review. But I'm going to say this, in game, your pathing is not the exact every time you take a trip somewhere. And also from one player to a next, or even from one load to the next, you could do things different to make up time. So let's say like you're using a JAT OMD1, which is not better in a trial than a UOD2. You could actually make a better time with this right here because you didn't tip over, or you just took a new route that is, better than when you took the UOD. So like the time gain you're getting from using just like the meta tire is really not much in the grand scheme of a 1,000-hour game. So I would say in general, if you are wanting more stability, Jet OMDs. If not, go with a UOD. Or to be quite honest, I would say pick any of these 6, because I would say pick one that looks good, because you're going to have to drive it. You're going to have to look at it. So in my opinion, nowadays, like I'm starting to really not like the look of the UOD 2s, because I've just looked at them for years. So I've been trying to like just use different tires just for some swag, I guess. It's nice looking at something different. Moving forward, guys, advanced winch, pretty much. Engageable diff lock. The vehicle gets upgraded pretty much to max in Michigan. Aside from one thing, and that is the all-wheel drive upgrade. Before I talk about that, snorkel cap is decent size. It gets up there. So you'll be able to do some crossings. You won't be able to do crazy amount of like deep crossings like you've seen with the Kodiak on the Kodiak truck request, because that was just a crazy tall vehicle and the snorkel goes way up to the roof. So you won't get by that, but you'll be able to handle crossings enough. The all-wheel drive upgrade, this is something that Sabre started to do in Season 1, which I actually thought at the time, I was like, oh, so this is where we're going. Like, we're taking base game trucks and we're upgrading them? Yes, like this is amazing. At the time, I don't think I was super happy that the GMC got this upgrade, because I kind of wanted some other things to be upgraded. But I'm going to say this, like after I played it, yeah, I mean, I was like, okay, this was a good move. Like, it definitely went from being a highway truck with diff lock, which was like the only highway truck with diff lock at the time, to roughly a vehicle that could probably sit in like the, I would say, lower mid tiers of like an off-road. Like right now, I think it sits at like top of the C class in its own class, which is actually pretty good in my opinion. I do rank trucks pretty hard, but I think that's pretty good. So that was kind of where I thought Sabre was going when they made Season 1, but they only did two seasons where they actually added upgrades, like found upgrades for base game trucks, and that was Season 1, Season 6. After that, they would like give upgrades to trucks later, like here and there, like they would patch them in. But man, I wish they would just do that. So that's my hope, man, for Season 17 through 20, is that they just upgrade some of the base game trucks, not necessarily to keep up with power creep. Like I don't want like every truck to just like move up to these just crazy levels of like Mac Pinnacle and stuff like that, which we've been getting in these super trucks and stuff. I don't want to contend with them. I just want some small changes. Do you know what I'm saying? Just small things. I don't want to like break the game. Just some small things. I think this was a huge upgrade though, because it basically put this truck on the map. No one was probably trying to use this other than like people like District to do, highway truck challenges for hard mode and stuff like that, which I do see a lot of people do some really crazy things just with, even highway tires and diff lock, or even no diff lock, just from weight on wheels. But that's a different thing. But anyways, it's been a great thing to see that they did upgrade this. So that's kind of what I would do is, yeah, you definitely want your all-wheel drive upgrade. Pertaining to add-ons here, and I feel like I'm going to sound like these videos are on repeat, like I'm just going to keep repeating myself here, and I apologize, but when I look at a vehicle, I'm considering it's first off, the biggest thing I'm concerned with a vehicle is stability. I can handle a vehicle being a little bit power starved, because I can do things disengaging all-wheel drive, forcing diff lock, generally staying closer to winch points as I'm trying to progress up hills with load as well, unpacking cargo to have lighter loads, things like that. There's ways to get around not having superior power that it seems like everyone just wants. And I think that not every vehicle should have superior power, because like if every truck has superior power, every truck has crazy ground clearance, every truck has very low centers of gravity, it's like, then I'm just driving the same vehicle that just has different skins. Like, what's the fun in that? So in this case, with considerations to stability, I will say this. I believe good players will be able to use some of these very tall, heavy add-ons without issue. How they do it, I'm going to say this. They're smart with understanding how much the vehicle can give and how much it can't give. And I mean by basically when you're going up to a slope or any type of uneven terrain, what you'll see a good player do is they try to keep the cab going uphill. Or if you're going downhill, you keep the cab going downhill. Don't go to the side. Always try to go north and south, up and down a hill. If you can get your cab uphill or get your cab downhill easily, you won't flip over. So, but I think what happens is, yeah, you make those mistakes of kind of like making that little turn to try to deviate a little bit, and that's where you just go. Also, a lot of good players, they watch terrain they're striking in those transitions, like stones and all those other things. You've seen on my Kodiak video when I was actually traversing over that rocky area and then the rock slope was sliding down to my right side. I slowed down, I put it in low, switched my camera angle to see if my tire was going to strike a boulder, and then I made my turn left before or after I knew that I was clear. If I would have struck a boulder at that little area, I would have literally just rolled the truck. So it's just things like that, like looking ahead and just playing smarter. And that's how you can make a truck that's tippy work for you. In this case, I think a lot of good players will say this is a very versatile vehicle. And I would agree, actually. I use this thing in a lot of different ways. Probably not as much. I don't use it as much now just because, well, I used it so much in my early days that, I don't know, I think I'm just liking playing new things, and I'm also liking, some of the trucks I do kind of gravitate to. You guys know who they are, so it's kind of fun that way. But maybe when season 16 comes out, we'll start taking some requests to drive this around a little bit more. But honestly, I would say this could be a good setup for you. But then I'm going to say no, actually, because I think this is better. The frame is not crazy good. It's not like ideal. It's not the dream setup like you would see with like a Western Star 4964, which is like the standard or like one of the best saddle positions, frame, down sloping rear ends that you could have for like a low saddle. It's like I said, Saber was like, hey, check this out, guys. You probably should use this. In this case, I don't think it's that clear, but I think this is decent enough to use. And I definitely will use this in this configuration rather than a 2-slot sideboard bed. So that's kind of, and I'm just going to say this. Do you guys really like this stuff? Because I feel like you're going to hear me say this same thing so many times that I know. The crazy thing is in one of my videos, they're like, yeah, Nate just likes playing low saddle. And I think someone said that in the tier list and there was like crazy upvotes. And that's really just what it is, man. I always look at a vehicle. Can I use a low saddle? If I can't use a low saddle, it's going to be on vehicle hauling. Because to be honest, here's the thing. The simple thing about SnowRunner is most of the game is just carrying cargo. The vast majority of the game is carrying cargo. And how are you doing that? You're either doing it on frame or on trailer, or you're doing it both, which is on frame, hitch trailer attached. So those are the two things. It's either the truck has a frame that doesn't really allow really good angles for you to even put on a trailer, and then you're kind of forced to use, a flatbed, or people get away with the flatbed crane and then overstacking unpacked. That's another way you can move cargo with this thing as well. I would say with that, be careful with your stability, just because, yeah, you're adding the crane, the small crane, the US crane as well. This does give you a little bit more weight in the front to deal with, especially when your weight in the front already is kind of high set. So then that's a consideration. And this is why I think the best way to use this vehicle is weight on rear axles. And then your trailer kind of puts weight here rather than putting more weight up here. And then, well, there is the overstacking thing. You can probably get away with that. But yeah, semi-trailer, guys. I'm telling you, semi-trailer, semi-trailer, semi-trailer. You're probably going to hear this for how many other videos that you guys want to see. It's crazy. You're going to hear me say that. But overall, the vehicle is versatile with considerations to balance or stability, I would say. And that's really how I feel about the GMC. So let's talk about some other things and how it stacks up in some of the hardest maps in the game. And let's also talk about how I think it would contend with newer trucks coming out, also the new trucks that have come out in the recent years. So let's get started. All right, guys, I got to apologize one more time here, and you're probably going to hear me apologize on most of these videos because if I don't have a scripted, short, concise, edited video to present to you, similar to my reviews, which they are more driving than just talking in a garage. So I apologize if this seems kind of boring. Please go watch my reviews. It's all driving, giving pros and cons, talking about things in depth. And there's other videos as well out there that's mainly driving, not just me talking. So I apologize. That's just me getting a little bit on a rant. That's kind of how it is on stream. It's almost like a podcast where I just talk and talk and talk, and I kind of get carried away there. But hopefully you guys learned something there in the garage tour, or hopefully it was rather interesting, I would say, as well. But getting back to the MH9500, to be quite honest, guys, I rank this I think a C+. So it was at the top of its tier in the C category. And moving forward, if I can give a little bit of a spoiler, it might creep up into the next tier at the bottom. But I will say this objectively, I think it's better than a Fleet Star with the all-wheel drive upgrade. And the thing is, it takes so long to upgrade it. If you're playing chronologically, which I believe you should, I promise you, if you do play chronologically, it is very rewarding. And you keep getting better and better trucks as you move forward, and you just kind of build from there. I think reaching ahead with the FOMO, and then getting these amazing trucks, taking them back to easy regions, crushing the game. After a while, it gets kind of boring. I don't know, that's just me. I could be one of those old heads that are like, you have to play the game this way, or I remember the good old days. And to be honest, yeah, I probably am. But I'm gonna be real with you guys, like, I've done it the other way, and that's just my perspective. And I think a good person to watch playing chronologically right now is the original Zing. Also, another good person to watch is Neighbor. Neighbor plays in extreme hard mode. And another person to watch on top of that is Gaming with JJ. The dude is playing all Scouts right now, season 15. So it's kind of a challenge. Like, you have some folks that are doing some pretty challenging things and really interesting gameplays, interesting perspectives. That's what I love about this game is the perspective of everybody else, watching how they have fun. It's just watching people have fun in this game is enjoyable for me. And that's kind of like how I gear this channel is. I want to give you information to make you have more fun. And hopefully I'm doing that. So in the case of the MH9500, I think it gets overshadowed really quick because it doesn't have all-wheel drive. And then it gets all-wheel drive and it becomes almost, I would say, yeah, it's definitely a higher C, maybe a lower B tier in its class, but it's definitely not going to contend with all the new vehicles coming out. It doesn't have a ton of torque. Its stability is questionable, but I think all those things, kind of like we talked about with setups and just the mindset of how you tackle terrain, you can really make it effective. A lot of people have, and a lot of people really love it. Good engine sounds, good aesthetics. So in that case, like, I really do enjoy it. I actually, now that I've done this little revisit / truck request video, I actually might implement this a little bit more into season 16, because I feel like sometimes I get stuck in using what I like to use, like Freightliner 114 SD, Step 310 Echo, all these other things. So, you know, another thing we could do actually is on live stream. I could even do the truck request series on live stream, and then I can just cut it and post it later. Or we can just do truck requests where You guys pick the truck I do for this mission, and then we just kind of move through it. I used to do that a little bit more. I haven't in recent times, but maybe we'll get back to that. That's kind of a fun thing to do. So hopefully, guys, you've learned a lot on this video. Please go like the video. Please leave a comment on what truck you want to see next, and the most upvoted comment will be the next one we feature on the truck request. I hope you guys have really enjoyed the video and potentially learned a few things along the way as well. And hopefully the rant wasn't too much for y'all. So until next time, God bless and stay upright.